Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We're going to do a quick altcoin market overview, just kind of see what's going on here. Altcoin season index is maintaining itself very, very well at 40, up from 38 yesterday. It actually hit 46 as its highest point yesterday, and kind of tapered off when Bitcoin pulled back. But now that we're seeing Bitcoin go sideways, solid chance we see these top 100 coins outperforming and consistently going higher. So generally best to try to stick with those kind of coins. We're also going to touch on a big week for crypto, right? So, such as the Genius Act, and of course, potential reasons for where the price action is suppressing itself based on the U.S. supposedly selling over 85% of its Bitcoin with that strategic reserve. Kind of defeats the purpose, right? If they are selling a strategic reserve, what's the point of a reserve if it's going to be sold? Either way you look at it, a lot of those things are going to be factoring in here. So we're just going to do a quick overview here, get you some perspective. Let's go ahead and start first and foremost with the overview and just kind of recognize the ETF net inflow in this case here. And I want to kind of just touch on the 1 year time frame here. There's basically each one of these candles is 1 week's worth of trading. And we can see Ethereum is monstrous. It in fact almost rivals Bitcoin's amount of volume for ETF net inflow. That is about 2.1 billion. That's quite a lot of money flowing into Ethereum. And when money flows into Ethereum, we see altcoins start to surge. It's kind of like the early front runner for alt season. It happens every more like 4 to 5 years. It's kind of a little delayed this year, but for the most part, there's that 4-year cycle kind of starting off here. So am I telling you that alt season is full-fledged, we're ready to rock and roll, just all in? Not quite. I do think capitulation, a little bit of a pullback here, potentially this weekend or soon is a realistic expectation, but the truth is that's a very, very good sign to start. Other than that, we're also seeing a nice amount of open interest here in the last 24 hours. That is up from yesterday at about 3.5 billion, now at about 4 billion. So that's excellent stuff. And we do like to see that. So overall, a lot of fantastic things. Let's go ahead and start with some back-end data here. First and foremost, starting with ETH and recognizing that we had a CME gap kind of starting, or well, it's weekend, so technically we have a CME gap forming at, we're looking at about 3450, so correction, sorry, 3530 is where we saw the closure on Friday. That was yesterday. So depending on where we end up today, we could very well see a CME gap get filled. But there's a previous gap between 2850 and 2920. I'm purposely, or not purposely, I believe we're going to see a pullback from Ethereum based on multiple normal wave patterns, but also the simple sense that there's a lot of fair value down as low as about 3100. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's jump into the backend data here for Ethereum, just kind of give you some perspective. First of all, open interest, let's touch on this here. There is a heavy concentration of open interest at 3,400 to 3,450. So that's like our next area of support. We got some resistance at 3,550 to 3,600. That's the open interest above. And just so you know, in general, there's exit liquidity when the price goes higher to those ranges. That's kind of how that was supposed to work. And if we do take a look here, of course, as well, we got liquidation long delta plateauing at 20 billion as volume dissipates over the weekend. We see this running flat. But when you see liquidation long delta staying too high for too long, it shows there's too much selling pressure and the price has to reverse itself. Or, the shorts give way, they eventually stop shorting, the price goes higher. But for the most part at this point, there's equal amount of selling pressure as there is buying pressure. We can see overall too as well that not a whole heck of a lot here for liquidation above and below. Obviously 3,700 to 3,800 is that upper range. We're nowhere close to that, and there's a little bit below at 3,300. So truth is there's more liquidation below the price than above, or correction, there's more incentive with fair value gap as well as CME gaps that I think the propensity for the price to pull back is greater. It's also massively overextended. So let's take a look here. This is the overextension on the daily. We hit an overextended state on Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, and now Saturday so far have been pushing a little bit higher. So my anticipation is that we do see a pullback to this golden pocket, this 0.382 fib level, correction, 0.618 fib level, and we do see that continuation for that retracement to roughly 3,100. So that's a rough estimate. We got a lot of support in that area with a previous high closure. So it's very sensible for those areas to get retested. Now, is it a guarantee? Do I want you to sell everything and rebuy at that area? No, you probably want a dollar cost average because it's just a better strategy. Right now, things could continue to run. You don't want to give up on that profit, but you do want to adjust your stop loss higher if you're in a leveraged trade and guard your profits, because it's just ridiculous to think that everything's going to go to the metaphorical moon because some idiot online tells you so. I could be that idiot if you're not careful, right? So I don't want you to be or I don't want to be that for you, so don't be that for me, and be a good trader, right? Be a responsible trader. That's the whole point of this. Obviously, I have a promotion going on right now. CryptoCash.tech is a site. Link down below if you want to become a better trader. We've got a trading academy, community, and signals group. Last but not least, here on the daily time frame, sorry, this is a 4-hour time frame. We're not really seeing any significant divergences, but we are starting to see the RSI cool off here. We're also starting to see a break below our moving average and a stochastic swing to the downside. So a lot of times these are early signs kind of telling us reversals are happening. Bitcoin also is exuding those early signs of reversal, okay? So I'm not proposing you just short everything. I'm just saying that if you're going to take some longs, be careful, watch them close, because this feels like we're at a tentative top for Ethereum. One last thing too I want to touch on here. Make sure you reference BitUnix too, folks. Link down below. They have a phenomenal exchange, no KYC or VPN required. We have promotions every single month for our community. And for right now, we got a nice little $10,000 prize pool, about to bump up to 16K here soon. So once more, new promotions available. If you use my link to register, check them out. They are fantastic. I've also got a Twitter, Telegram, and Discord too. So it's all available there for you if you want to just become just a little bit more well-rounded. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the backend data for Solana. Let's move on to Solana next. And I want to kind of describe what I have on the charts here and why I feel like we may see a bit of a correction here for Solana. Now let's jump into the backend data here. Recognize, first of all, with open interest, that Solana's looking like we're seeing a lot of volume at 176. So that's the tentative support level for us. It's a support range. Just know that usually when you break down, you start to work yourself into a triangle and or rectangle pattern. Further downside is expected. So that's kind of the concept here based on patterns. Now, we don't trade patterns alone, but we do want to understand that there is a continuation pattern here for Solana. And it's similar to most coins, you're seeing kind of plateaus for liquidation. Basically, there's just as many longs as there are shorts right now as far as last 24 hours. So there's less people trying to take longs, which is good. But truth is, when that starts running flat, volume starts to dissipate, price action pulls back in most cases. When it comes to liquidation, there's a lot both above and below. So there's kind of a chunk between 178 and 180.85 as a rough estimate, and also a chunk between 172 to 167. So we got this $5 range above and below the price. That's just something to be mindful of. Okay, so let's take a look at the charts here and recognize the daily time frame, and just that we're certainly not breaking bearish, okay? We're still in a very good, strong, bullish continuation pattern. There's a lot of support below us, a 0.618 fib level that confluence at 165. So my speculation here is if we see 165 to 168, that's a solid consideration for an average into your position for a long, or to consider securing profits on a short if you insist on doing so. I don't recommend shorting the market right now. While we have shorts open with SUI, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, those are just kind of ones that are pretty obvious to me that are pulling back. This one is not. In fact, if you take a quick look at our premium, we can see here that we secured some nice profits on our SUI trade there, and it's looking pretty solid here overall, right? Dogecoin too, that was a long prior to that. Anyways, I don't get them all right. We tried to short with Pengu, and that one just kind of screwed us in the back end, but it all depends on what kind of risk tolerance you have. That was a high risk, very, very low leverage trade, so just be mindful of that. Make sure you read my trade alerts too if you're part of our community. Those are available in our Discord here, where I kind of explain why we're going to be taking the trades that we take, just so you can kind of learn from my perspective and why I take the trades that I do. All that said, daily time frame from Solana looks pretty strong. Once more, support at 165 to 168. There's a fair value gap there, previous highs. It's very, very common for those previous highs to be retested as new lows. So I'm expecting something along those lines. All right, let's go ahead and move on to SUI here next. Kind of wrap this up here for you, kind of see where we're at. Now I have this it's a tiny pennant pattern here. I'll explain more on the smaller time frames after we look at liquidation, but the concept here for SUI is that we are in a pretty good position for shorts and not a good position for longs. Main reason why, open interest is heavy above the price, reinforcing resistance at $4 to $4.10. Same thing as well with liquidation short delta. That is super high to the downside. You don't try to long against that. If you're driving into oncoming traffic, it's generally a bad idea, right? Don't do it just because it's a thrill and somebody tells you not to and you do it anyways. That's kind of what you're doing right now if you consider long with SUI. I get that you probably love it and you're passionate about it, but there's nothing really here telling us that further upside makes sense. Overall, again, that's just kind of a speculation. I'm not a fanboy of anything, honestly, and I'm not anti-fanboys either, minus moon boys that are total idiots. But 365 to 355 is that area of liquidation. So there's more propensity for the price to go lower. Let me show you on the smaller time frames too what I mean by that. 4-hour time frame, first of all, this is like a a tried and true pattern here. And once more, you don't trade patterns, right? You don't trade them alone, but you got to recognize that patterns are definitive in a lot of ways. Okay, now I got my text a little small here. Let's make that a little bit bigger so you can kind of see. But generally speaking, when you see the price action work itself into a descending trend, right? And we're starting to see a compression. The break down is more likely than the break up because there's momentum in this direction, okay? It's just kind of like, it would be foolhardy to expect the price just to bounce from here because it's going sideways. The likelihood of it going down is greater. We've also lost 50 on the RSI. We're under all moving averages. Stochastic swinging down. MACD is tentatively bottoming out. And more important, money flow index is right there with it. So those are all things that kind of just tell us it's a bad idea to take along with this coin. So that's a simple way to understand it. So those of you who shorted at $4, I would say keep it open. I think this lower range is probably more likely to occur. I think we're going to see 350 to 360, just based on the premise that I feel Bitcoin will continue a little bit lower this weekend or early next week. Okay, it's got a fair value gap. It's got some things it needs to take care of. Cool. All right. So that is SUI, and that's the reason for it. Let's take a look here at XRP and see what's going on, starting with the back-end liquidation data, and just recognizing that this coin is very strong. It's an emotional coin. That's the best way to describe it. Okay. Now, obviously, no coin has the ability to be emotional, but the people buying the coin are, right? They're significantly ridiculous traders. And no offense to anyone who loves XRP and you're trading it. It's just that most people are, they hear what they want to hear. There's so much popularity in this coin that people just shut up and take my money. That's literally the foundation of how they trade. And XRP moved up really well when Bitcoin moved up, and is pulling back as Bitcoin pulls back. So it's kind of a one-to-one, but anytime there's a pro crypto move, then XRP is going to spike. So this is just kind of one of those things. But the cool thing about XRP is it's consolidating above its previous high at 340, 341, and that was its all-time high. Oftentimes coins will leg up again after they do that. Okay, so let's look here. Open interest heavy at 342. We got liquidation long delta is still maintaining itself at 2 billion. That's quite high. And then of course we got this 3.5 to 3.6 is that upper area of liquidation, and also 330 to 340 below. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us we have more buying pressure in this area and that we're starting to consolidate nicely, and there's a solid chance we do see a continuation pattern here moving forward. Right? This is kind of the opposite of SUI in a lot of ways. We got this basically triangle type of pattern or pennant pattern. While this is never exact, it's just kind of an indication that we're more likely to go higher. In fact, Bitcoin has one as well. Even though it's showing significant divergence, unlike XRP, it still has a bullish pattern nonetheless, right? So I'm not proposing we're going to break out because of this. I never trade patterns alone, but this kind of reinforces what we're seeing on the back end with the liquidation, open interest, and that most recent high being retested as a new low. Okay. Daily time frame, quickly to note, we're above all moving averages. There's nothing really here telling us there's any early signs of reversal. We're still well over 70 in the RSI. The common rule here is to keep your position open, hold your longs position open until the RSI comes back down. Now the price could come down with it, but ideally we go sideways for a few more days, RSI tapers off, we take a long when RSI hits the 70 level, and Bob's your uncle, right? We also want to be confirming that Bitcoin's going to do well at that time, so right now doesn't seem like a logical place to take a long. Just me personally, I'm very conservative. But if you are a risk taker, then perhaps that may be a good consideration for you. Either way you look at it, 4-hour time frame, there's nothing significant here telling us we're shifting momentum, but we have lost our moving average. We are seeing the money flow index pulling back, implying more selling pressure in the last 24 hours. And overall, these are generally not great signs here when you're considering taking a long. So to me, from a smaller perspective, I think a short-term correction or continuation lower is higher, right? So I think we're more likely to see that. But on the back end, we're starting to pile up and build some pretty good strength and momentum that overall, a larger move would make sense here soon. But once more, we got to kind of see how this 340 level holds. If we lose that, I would say 290 to 320 is that next area of support based on previous highs and these key fib levels as well. But we'll continue to monitor and see where we're at. I think the only thing that would cause XRP to pull back is if Bitcoin had a very significant move. it keeps kind of trickling down, I think XRP will leg up again. All right, those are my thoughts there. Check out my playout charts on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. It's all available for you there. I hope you learned something today and you just become a better trader in general. I do look forward to working with you. Don't be a stranger. Comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are here. And thanks again to everybody that's new. We got a good like 20 or 30 subscribers from my video yesterday. I like to see that kind of moving forward. So appreciate you always hitting the like button, commenting, and just being an amazing part of my life. Keep doing you. I'll keep doing me. We'll get you where you need to go. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you soon.